Hi guys, it's Ray here from Man City Fan TV. Well, today we have the second instalment of our Transfer Target series that we're running this summer. Now we're looking at players that City are rumoured to be interested in. Yesterday Andy did the first part of the series, and that was João Felix, so check that video out after you've watched this video. So today we're going to talk about Rodri. Now Rodri is not a Welsh guy, he's not... his full name is Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante. Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante. Now, we've been looking for a replacement, a long-term replacement for Fernandinho for a year or two now. We thought we might have that in Douglas Luiz, a kid that we got a couple of seasons ago. He unfortunately couldn't get a work permit last summer, and so he went out on loan to Girona again, and he's kind of not really come through this season. We've got Claudio Gomez, another kid who's way off the pace at the moment. And last summer we looked at probably two targets we were heavily linked with. There was Fred, who ended up going to Manchester United, and there was Jorginho, who ended up going to Chelsea. And probably we'll look back at them and say we're quite pleased that we probably dodged a couple of bullets there. So we're still looking for this successor to Fernandinho. Now I think Fernandinho at 34 has probably got another good season in him, maybe two. He's still very fit, but realistically speaking, I'm looking at him playing a major part in the next 12 months, and then maybe a bit part the season after, as somebody else comes through and starts to take over. So the person who's currently appears to be number one target is Rodri. I'm going to call him Rodri because it's a lot easier than saying Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante, which I think all the commentators, if he comes to City, they'll call him Rodri next season. Now Rodri is a 22-year-old kid, really. He'll be 23 in 2 or 3 weeks' time. Now, Rodri was born in Madrid. He joined one of the Madrid clubs, Atletico, at the age of 11. But he was released 6 years later when he was 17 because, to quote what they said was, he had a lack of physical strength, and from there he joined Villarreal. Now, he made his debut in the cup game for Villarreal in December 2015, aged 19. And then he made his La Liga debut on the 17th of April in 2016. But then in the last 3 years, from making his La Liga debut in 2016 to now, he's had a pretty meteoric rise. Now, it was only last summer, after just 2 seasons with Villarreal, that he rejoined Atletico Madrid for about, I think it was rumoured to be about 20 million euros, with about 5 million euros of bonuses and add-ons, etc. Now, I don't think that Atletico really anticipated the continued rise of Rodri in such a, can you say, phenomenal fashion? Because last season they paid 20 million for him, 20 million euros. They put a release clause of 70 million euros into his contract. And I don't think they expected anybody to come knocking on their door for Rodri, within 12 months, which appears to be what's happened right now. So let's look at some of the qualities of Rodri. Well, for me, what I want from a defensive midfielder, first and foremost, I think, is the ability to read the game. The ability to know what's about to happen in the next 2 or 3 seconds. Not someone who's going to just react to what's happening now, but someone who can see what's about to happen. Now, we've seen that, I think, with Fernandinho, definitely. He knows what's happening with the game. He knows when to make a technical foul, a very cheap foul, usually without getting himself booked, to break up play, disrupt play, give the other side a free kick, get our lads group back together again. So Fernandinho's got that footballing nous, that knowledge, that anticipation. He knows what's going to happen. And I think that Rodri, from what I've seen and what I've heard, I think he's got that too. He's a good passer of the ball, and he keeps hold of that ball. He doesn't want to let that ball go away cheaply. And last season, his pass accuracy at Atletico was 91%, and he's a top blocker and a top tackler for Atletico too. So, as a defensive midfielder, I think He's right up there right now. Obviously he's not as, I don't think he's as good as Fernandinho, but the way he's progressing, who's to say that within a couple of years, 2 or 3 years time, he'll be 25, 26 years old, he might be at the really top level. So getting him in early while he's still quite young and letting him develop under Pep Guardiola, the best manager in the world, is only going to be great for the kid. Now, it's been rumoured that Cheeky Begiristan, City's director of football, has watched Rodri play several times already. And in AS, a newspaper in Spain, they've reported that apparently City paid or offered to pay his release clause of 70 million euros 15 days ago. Now, I'm not sure how much truth, obviously, you can read into a newspaper article in Spain. I'm not sure exactly how it works over there. I was under the impression that the player had to pay the release clause. I think that's what happened with Neymar when he left Barcelona and went to PSG. PSG basically gave him the money. I mean, there's no way Neymar's got 200 million notes in his back pocket. So he paid the release clause. So I'm not sure exactly how much you can take in from what the newspaper's saying, but let's go on what they said. So they've said City offered to pay the release clause 15 days ago, and now the ball's in Rodri's court and he's deciding what to do. It looks like Atletico, apparently, if you believe the rumours, have come back and are trying to persuade him to stay. They don't want him to leave. I mean, they're losing Griezmann as well. Costa might be an issue. You can't afford to lose 2, 3, 4 of your best players. So they want him to stay. They've come back and they're trying to keep him. But apparently, as I said, the ball's in Rodri's court. It's up to him whether he stays or leaves. Now, it's been reported that he's very close to making a decision, and that a decision may be made in the next 7 to 10 days. So it's going to be very, very interesting what happens in the next week or so to see whether we have actually, legitimately put a bid in for Rodri, whether he's going to want to leave Atletico, whether he's going to he might even end up signing a new bumper contract with them. I mean, it's a bit odd because it's quite funny with Villarreal. He signed a 4 or 5 year contract. 2 years later, he'd left. He signed a 5-year contract with Atletico, and only 12 months later, he could be leaving again. So, I mean, I think he's our first choice now. I mean, all the rumours, reading between the lines in the papers and direct comments in some of the newspapers in this country especially, are that he is our number 1 target. Now, I want to mention our number 2 target because obviously when you go for you got a plan A, let's say, your number 1 target. If you don't get that, I mean, it could be that Rodri says, actually, I like the weather in Spain. I want to stay with Atletico. They're going to offer me an extra 50 grand a week. I'm going to stay here. Then we've got to look at our number 2. Our number 2 target, I think, is Tanguy Ndombele. And we were heavily linked with Tanguy Ndombele, several months ago. And that's kind of quieting down recently. But we've been out to watch him play as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see, if we don't get Rodri, will we go straight away in for Tanguy Ndombele? And it's very, very interesting to read some of the comments made by the current Spain manager and previous Barcelona manager, Luis Enrique. Now, what he said about Rodri is as follows. He said, Rodri comes across as very professional and prepared mentally. He can reach Busquets' level and may surpass it. Who knows what his limits are? Now, to come from the current Spain manager to compare him with Busquets, I mean, Busquets, we've seen over his career, he's been a top player. Winner of many, many, many top trophies and medals and accolades. And if Rodri can get to that sort of level, we're going to have some player on our hands. And we're going to, it could be that we turn around in 2 or 3 years' time and say 70 million, we got him on the cheap. And it seems to be the way with a lot of our players. We've got Raheem Sterling for, let's say, 50 million, 40 odd million. Now you'd see he's worth well in excess of 100 million. We've got Bernardo Silva for 43 million. Once again, you'll see he's worth in excess of 100 million. Leroy Sané for 30 odd million. He's worth around 100 million. Edison we got for 30 odd million, about 30 million, 32 million. He's worth more than double that. So we could be saying the same with Rodri in 2 or 3 years' time. We got him for 70 million euros. He's worth 150 million euros. Who knows? So he's a very exciting talent. It's going to be extremely interesting to see what happens in the next 7 to 10 days. I expect some movement very, very soon in the transfer market because if you watched our chairman Khaldoon Al-Mubarak's video with Chris Bailey a couple of weeks ago, he said that City are very advanced with their transfer targets. and it felt like something was going to happen very, very quickly after the end of the season. So, you know, defensive midfield is probably the position that I think and most City fans think we need the most. So it's going to be very exciting to see what happens in the next 7 to 10 days to see if we get Rodri. Guys, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, it would be fantastic if you could do so. Just click on subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos come out. See you around, Blues.